This is Retirement Keys with Anthony Congemi from Crescent City Retirement Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Anthony provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is Retirement Keys with your host, Anthony Congemi.
All right, welcome to another show of Retirement Keys. My name's Anthony Congemi. We're looking forward to a great show today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have our co-host joining us today, Tony Shore. And Tony, we're going to be talking about inflation and taxes. So I think two very timely topics for today. But before we get into it, Tony, thank you so much for joining us. And how have you been doing?
Well, thanks for having me on the show, Anthony. I have been great. I've told you before, I say it all the time, but I love the fall. It's my favorite time of year. Of course, I've been, where I live, we have trees and leaves falling, so I've been raking leaves and doing yard work. So that keeps me busy and out of trouble. But also, I had a big weekend last weekend. My son got engaged, and so that was fun. He's been with this. They've been dating since they were juniors in high school, and now they both graduated from college last year. And he's applying to some grad schools, med school, to become a physician's assistant. And she has a full-time job, so he popped the question, and she said yes. And so excited about that. A wedding probably within the next year. So got that to look forward to. That must mean I'm getting old, right, Anthony?
Yeah, that's exciting, Tony. Yeah, I guess that's what it means. I mean, we're going to be one day you'll be kind of the matriarch, and you'll be sitting there in the big chair in the living room, and everybody will be running around and during Christmas, and you'll be the pawpaw,
Yeah. Well, that'll be interesting. So, I don't know. I feel too young to be thinking about any of that, but it's just time moves fast. I can't believe my son has already got engaged. So it's just what you have to look forward to. But your kids are still pretty young yet. So.
Yeah, Anthony's 21,
Sure.
But I got him, as you know, the four boys, 21 to 10.
Yeah.
Actually, so I have some time. But no, I'm not really honestly looking forward to all that. I just like things as they are. Time can slow down a little bit if it wants to.
Yeah, that would be good. Well, hey, our topic today, first of all, how have you been, though? What did you do this last weekend? Have you been keeping busy?
Yeah, Tony, we have. It's been good times. The kids were in town. My youngest son Sam had a little birthday. And so his birthday was on October 25th, and so they were in town this past weekend. And it's good. My kids are. I'll tell you, it's interesting, but they all I don't know, they like each other. They appreciate each other, especially the little ones love their big brothers, and the big brothers love the little ones. And I guess it was Brandy who did a good job with instilling this, family dynamic where they really do look out for each other, and it's good because, honestly, when you talk to, not all family dynamics are that way. I mean, sometimes there's estranged, or they don't get along. But I would have to say we're blessed in that regard. They do get along, and they look out for each other. So these four boys, that hadn't always been that way, but it seems like it seems like it's evolved to that, I guess.
Yeah. Well, sure.
So all good though with these guys, Tony, and I'm happy to hear about your exciting news. And inflation and taxes is a big topic. I mean, we know that, inflation can play a role and an effect on a retirement plan.
Oh yeah.
Obviously taxes as well. So,
Sure.
you need to be thinking in these terms if you're going to develop an efficient retirement strategy.
Well, sure, and I guess we can start with inflation because that seems to be a common topic, and we've talked about it on the show before, but it hasn't slowed down. I mean, we're still seeing inflation rise, and the Fed, when we started seeing inflation a few months ago, the Fed said, "Oh, this is just a blip because of COVID, et cetera." But it's kept the prices keep going up, and that is always a bit scary for folks, especially in retirement. None of us like to see have to pay more for everything, especially gas and clothing and groceries, things like that. But in retirement, it can usually you have a budget and a monthly income that you expect to spend, and so inflation really can do a number on that, especially if you don't have inflation built into your plan, right?
Absolutely, Tony. And then couple that with life expectancy and people living longer, and and I don't think any of us that are any of our radio audience or us for that matter, we've all lived long enough to know that things just naturally due to inflation things cost more. I mean, I can recall when I was a kid, and I'm 53. I was born in '67, but I mean the first home that I lived in Harahan. I think my dad and them he paid $35,000 for this house
Wow.
back then, and it was just for sale not that long ago. The same house just sold for over $300,000, and so
Wow.
yeah, I mean, and it's nothing really all that special, but you just look at it's inflation, right? I mean, things I have clients that tell me they paid more for their last car than they did for their first house, and so we know. And my goodness, that's something else. I don't know if anybody's been car shopping or vehicle shopping
Oh,
lately.
I have. Yeah, for my wife, and we had to get her a new vehicle, but wow, it's crazy right now.
A real eye opener. It's like a bidding war, and
Yeah.
and all of this, and it takes a while to get it in, and supply and demand, Tony. I mean, that's what causes it. I mean, if you have more demand and less supply, it's going to run up the costs, right?
Right.
And so we're seeing that at the grocery store. We're
Yep.
seeing that at the gas pump. We're seeing that in the lumber store. If you try to build a fence today,
Oh
it's
yeah.
going to cost you twice as much as it would have, just a year ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It is affecting a lot, and rental cars too. If you've been traveling, hotels and rental cars have started to skyrocket. So
They really have. And so, I think at the end of the day, Tony, it's almost, at the end of it, we have to be able to separate the idea of the things that we can do something about and the things that we just don't have any control over. And I would say that we don't directly have control over inflation. However, we do have control over our investments, our investment strategy, our distribution strategy. We have control over that. And so I would just simply say that obviously in our distribution strategy in retirement, we have to figure that things are going to cost more a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And of course, this big run on inflation in the last year or so, has just made maybe people more aware of it. But it's always been a reality that, inflation, things cost more over time,
yeah.
and so that's not really, some big revelation, if you will.
No,
How,
that shouldn't be a surprise to your financial plan in retirement, right?
no, you wouldn't think. And, and when people talk about, well, hey, I'm going to be retired and I'm going to be on a fixed income, right, or a structured income. where that's true, you will be on an income, a fixed income. That income certainly should be adjusted for inflation.
Yes.
So we know there's certain types of investments, there's inflation protected funds and all the rest
Yep.
that can be coordinated together to be able to structure a distribution strategy where we build in inflation, where each year your income is going up based on inflation rates. So this is just part of good old fashioned retirement income planning, Tony.
Sure. And so that's when people ask, well, how do I protect against inflation? That's what our listeners out there want to know. And that's exactly what you're explaining here. The first step is to have a financial plan that incorporates, increases for inflation for your income.
Absolutely. I mean, it shouldn't be a big surprise. Now, granted, this has sure reared its ugly head in a more dramatic way, I would say, over the last 12 months. So,
Sure.
you could say, well, yeah, I mean, and of course, that's due again to the supply chain,
Yep.
Tony. I mean,
Yeah.
supply and demand, it goes back to that. But however, it does allow us to take a pause and say, okay, inflation's not going anywhere. The cost of living's not going anywhere. There's always going to be increases over time in our costs of living. So does our retirement plan consider that and allow for that? And obviously it certainly should. And then I think, we work really hard. I would say 95% of the retirement plans that we develop, we want the plans to run to age 100. Now, I say 95% because sometimes people will say, well, I just want more income and I want to draw more out. And if my plan runs to 90 or 95, we're okay with that. But we like the plans to run to age 100. We want nice balances all the way through. And but we need to adjust for inflation as well. So you've got to think about longevity. You got to think about how long we're going to live. You got to think about your surviving spouse, because then that creates, another scenario where there's going to be a loss of income due to the death of a surviving spouse, and then they're in a different tax structure. So, inflation, taxes, loss of income due to the death of a spouse, all of these things, Tony, where they're not, I wouldn't think any big news, if you will, to anybody, listening.
These things happen when you're in retirement.
Of
That's
course,
what you're saying. Sure.
They do happen in retirement. However, if your retirement plan doesn't consider these things, then it can be as sensible, and sure, everybody understands. But if you don't have a plan built out that takes this into consideration, then you can know it, but you really haven't done anything about it.
Sure. And one other way, I know that you work hard for your clients to try to put them into financial situations, investments, products, what have you, to make sure that they're keeping up with inflation as far as what they're earning on their money. You have to put your money to work, and you don't want to have it all sitting on the sidelines, not earning that compounding interest or earning too little. If you're only earning 2% or less or 1% in a CD at the bank, then inflation like we're having now at, 5.9% officially, according to the government right now, you're not keeping up with inflation, so you're losing money there. So you need to protect against inflation, and I think that's what you've been talking about here, Anthony. And so our listeners can do that. They need to get that retirement income plan in place that takes this into account. How can our listeners get a hold of you to set that up?
Well, I would just encourage you, if you don't have a formal retirement plan, if you'd like to see a distribution strategy that not only includes inflation increases, but looks at your Social Security strategy and the best way to strategize with Social Security based on your marital status. Are you married? Are you single? What's the difference in age between you and your spouse? The loss of income due to the death of a spouse, the best strategy there. the inflation strategy, and just the structuring of income. And getting back to what you just mentioned about money sitting, not earning much, Tony. We really subscribe to an investment strategy that talks about liquidity, income, and growth. And so we don't mix these ideas together. If it's an emergency fund, if it's liquidity, then that's one thing, and we all need that.
Yep.
If it's a structured income plan, and that's going to be our income in retirement after federal and state taxes and Medicare and inflation adjustments, that's our income plan. And surviving spouse, of course, needs to be in that. And then the growth strategy is the growth strategy. So we don't want to mix apples and oranges as it relates to that. But to answer your question, Tony, yes, a well thought out retirement plan certainly is the key. And we have a special offer we'd like to give our listeners. So if you take advantage of this offer, you can have your very own full-blown retirement plan complimentary by Crescent City Retirement Group if you just simply take advantage of this offer.
You've been listening to our shows and advice on getting your finances in order and creating a retirement income plan that will last. Now is the time to take advantage of our special offer. This is Anthony Congemi of Crescent City Retirement Group, and we're now offering a complimentary gourmet dinner and retirement planning workshop, The 5 Keys to a Stress-Free Retirement. This is one workshop you won't want to miss. Call in the next 20 minutes for this no-cost offer. Seating is limited. Call Crescent City Retirement Group within the next 20 minutes at 504-828-2171. That number again is 504-828-2171.
And welcome back to Retirement Keys. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore, and I'm here with our host. The man with the plan is Anthony Congemi of Crescent City Retirement. And Anthony, great show so far today. We're talking about 2 tough topics, but something that we all want to be able to deal with and minimize, and that's inflation. We talked about that in our first segment. And now for the second half of the show, we're going to talk about taxes, and especially taxes in retirement, and what the future of taxation looks like. Talking about taxes and the power of when here is what we're doing. And that's going to be a great discussion. And we've had a good one so far. Inflation, it's creeping up there, and that can derail some folks' retirement if you haven't planned for it, and you should always plan for inflation, as well as taxes. Now, Anthony, I think we can all safely assume that taxes are going to go up. They keep saying they are, right?
Yeah, Tony, I think that we can assume that taxes are going up. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was set to sunset at the end of 2025 anyway. So we all know that these tax rates are going to change. And yeah, Tony, much like the discussion of inflation, as it relates to taxes, as you know, assets are taxed differently, right? So, you have these different, and we use buckets as an analogy, but you have the, tax deferred bucket or the pre-tax dollars, and then you have the after-tax dollars bucket, which it would be, let's say, non-qualified assets and, with cost basis. And then, of course, you have the tax-free bucket, which would be maybe Roth IRAs, of course, and, cash value, life insurance, and those are municipal bonds, tax-free munis. So what I'm saying here is that these assets that are being structured for retirement for your income plan, presumably Social Security as well, right? So will be taxed differently.
Sure.
All taxed differently. So the key here, Tony, is that when you're structuring that income plan, you're cognizant of the different distributions, where they're coming from, and what's the most tax efficient way to be drawing money out. I mean, as just an example, okay, you have people that may have retirement accounts like 401ks and IRAs, and these are all pre-tax dollars, and they will say, and very common to hear this, Tony. They'll say, well, we're going to defer. We don't have to start taking our required minimum distributions until we're 72. And we know if money comes out of this account now, we got to pay taxes. So we're just going to defer until we get to 72. Well, the problem with that, Tony, when you run these numbers, a lot of times, you could have been taking advantage all those years of a more favorable tax bracket that you're in now and taking those distributions from those taxable accounts in more favorable tax brackets versus deferring and then at 72 letting it all blow up on you. And, we don't know what tax rates are going to be at that point, right? So now all of a sudden you thought you were doing good by deferring taxes, but then you find out later on that you've got to pay a lot more in taxes on that money that you could have, distributed in a more tax favorable way over time, Tony. So, at the end of it, looking at the distributions, where the money's coming from, what the tax implications are, structuring it over time, Tony, and being tax efficient as we go is certainly going to be more advisable than just closing your eyes and hoping for the best.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. And I'm glad you brought that up because I know that's a huge factor because a lot of these retirement accounts are tax deferred. In other words, we don't have to pay taxes on the money if we put it directly into a retirement account, like a traditional IRA or traditional 401k. However, that's the bulk of the money a lot of us are going to plan on using for income in retirement. And then when we pull that money out, not only are we paying taxes on what we put in, but also the interest earned. We're paying taxes on that total amount, and the tax brackets will probably be a lot more in the future, and taxes will go up. So that is a concern in retirement for a lot of people. I think a lot of people have the idea, hey, I'm no longer working and earning that income, so my taxes are going to go down in retirement. But that is not necessarily the case. In a lot of cases, and these tax-deferred retirement accounts can be like a ticking tax time bomb. So you say there are other ways to have money in retirement that can come out tax-free. I know you've talked about Roth IRAs as one good example, right?
Absolutely, Tony, and just structuring those distributions properly and looking at your tax strategy from year to year, because we do know that tax laws change and tax rates change, and that's why, Tony, and not that you have to be so smart, because there are programs today, Tony, tax planning software that really can just drill down on all of the nuances that you could be doing to take advantage of the tax code or the tax place that you're at. And a lot of times, Tony, when we run these tax analysis software, there's a lot that people can be doing that they're just not doing. And it's only because they're not either aware of it, or they really don't look at their tax return or tax plan until sometime in February or March, when they get their 1099s, their W-2s or whatever they get. Then they go sit and they'll either do the taxes themselves through maybe a TurboTax, or they'll go to a different tax preparation place, which they do a good job preparing taxes. But Tony, tax planning and looking at what can be available happens before December 31st of the given year.
Right.
And so looking at your tax strategy, looking at what you can be doing, and then having a CPA with another set of eyes to say, hey, if you did this, if you did a Roth conversion, you could still maintain your same tax bracket. I can tell you, Tony, just as a quick example, someone married, filing jointly, they're in a 12% bracket all the way up to a little over $100,000 of income. So, a lot of time of taxable income up to over 100,000 after a little over 100 after you get your standard deduction of about 27,000, they're still in a 12% bracket. And then it jumps to the 22. So my point is, a lot of times they still have room in that bracket to be able to do a Roth conversion or readjust assets to be in a more tax favorable account for strategy for later on down the road.
Sure.
So that's just one example, Tony. But looking at your tax planning, your distribution strategy, your inflation protected income, and just being efficient, Tony, with your plan. I mean, when I think of a holistic retirement plan, and of course we've talked about this, Tony, many times, but when you think of a holistic retirement plan, there's really 5 key areas, and we talk about them all the time, but estate and legacy planning, healthcare, investment strategy, income planning, and taxes. And that's it. And they really all work together. And that's why I use the word holistic. They really work together. I mean, your income plan and your surviving spouse and your inflation strategy and your tax strategy and your investment strategy, your healthcare, it all works together, Tony. And so when the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing and it's just kind of spread around, it's really hard to have a cohesive retirement plan. And that's why I would just encourage our listeners, get a plan, get a second opinion, get a full-blown retirement plan. Let us do it for you. We're, obviously this is what we do. So we're, geared up for it. It's not hard for us. We just need certain information, obviously, to be able to put your plan together. But get a second opinion. Have a retirement plan put together for you, and then take it and use it as a benchmark or as a roadmap to your retirement. And I promise you'll get something out of it if you just take advantage of it.
Definitely minimize your tax burden and protect against inflation. 2 things that we all need to do and make sure is a part of that plan. Anthony, we're out of time. Let our listeners know one more time how they can get a hold of you to set up that plan.
Please call our office, 504-828-2171. Let them know you heard me and Tony on the radio. We'd love to schedule some time with you. We can do it over the phone. We could do it via Zoom meeting on the computer, or we can certainly meet in person, which I like the best. But we can meet in any way that you would like to meet to get the plan in your hands. We have a special offer. Tony, thank you so much for being with us again today. You just do a fabulous job.
Thanks.
And helping with the show. But please take advantage of this offer.
Thank you for listening to Retirement Keys. Don't pay too much for taxes or retire without a sound income plan. For more information, please contact Anthony Congemi at Crescent City Retirement Group. Call 504-828-2171 or visit the website at crescentcityretirement.com. All matters discussed during this show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. Anthony Congemi and Crescent City Retirement Group are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency.